It usually makes a
Yeah, it made a
noise.
noise on my end.
Oh, it didn't make it on mine.
Uh, Yeah, it says it's recording too at the top.
Okay. Well, now there we go. It's saying it on mine too.
Great.
All right. My name is Kenny Clevenger, and this is a project for IL 650 for Jacksonville State University. I'm here today with Mr. Skylar Nelson. He's an assistant principal at Glencoe Middle School in the Etowah County School District. Mr. Nelson, I appreciate you being with me today.
Yeah, thank you.
We're going to get right to it. We're talking mainly about curriculum development, and I've got a few questions for you to get the administrative point of view concerning some curriculum ideas. The first question is, how do we integrate curriculum both horizontally and vertically in our system?
Well, at my middle school in particular, we have common planning, and it's mostly a horizontal type planning. Every grade level, well, currently every grade level has common planning, and so we try to keep the curriculum, horizontal level. In some PD days, there are some vertical planning meetings, but that's mostly reserved on the district level, trying to get these the teachers in at once and have that top down approach to vertical. But an administrator tries to come at least once a month to these horizontal planning meetings, just to kind of chime in with input. But it's mostly been the teachers' babies, and they've done a great job with it so far.
Okay, that's a really good way of attacking that idea of horizontal planning. I know it, like at our school at Southside, the size that we are sometimes gets in the way of things like that. But for specifically for a middle school setting, I think common planning times is a way to get some real stuff done. So that's a good thing. And on that same line, are teachers involved in any curriculum decisions that happen at the school?
The input is always valued, and I think that the teachers are the professionals in the classroom, and their opinions are very valuable. As far as currently, there's not really a good platform for them to voice that opinion in a formal way to have curriculum developed. I wish maybe that's something that we can evolve into, because they're the ones in the classroom every day. They're the ones who are seeing any type of standards changes, or any new shiny thing that we can help the kids learn. So yeah, there's not a formal one, but their opinions are always valued, and we're always open to listen to them.
Good. How do you guys as leaders motivate teachers to adhere to prescribed standards and those kind of things?
Yeah, motivation for my staff in particular, they've been mostly intrinsically motivated. I haven't had to offer any, outside motivation for my teachers. They see from talks with me, I'm very standards based. I'm a standards based guy. I'm a no zeros guy, and um, that had some brushback at first, but as far as motivation, they're 100% team players, and I haven't had to have that tough talk yet, because they all understand that the standards are important there for a reason, and that those that align this curriculum have a purpose for it. And so, yeah, that's something I've never had to encounter at my school in particular, which has been great.
That's good. That's really good. Um, as an administrator, do you ever get a chance to assess instructional programs and activities, different things that you might, maybe a teacher brings a program to you and says, I'd love to use this in my classroom. How do you assess those things?
Yeah, in my current role, I haven't had to do a lot of that, but I will say that there have been a few times, especially along the lines of technology, where they've said, "Hey, I like this program," or I like this set of there's a workbook sets that we had that we were going to order for this during this COVID crisis. Um, but as far as how I would assess them and how my team previously assessed them, it was all about the research. Whatever type of research came with these things was very important. Because a lot of people can make it really flashy and sound really nice. The salesmen are really good at what they do for some of these things, but a lot
Right.
of times, one of the first things that my predecessor would ask was, what's the research with this? Because first off, you've got limited funds for some of these things. But secondly, we have specific learning goals for our school that this past year, special ed being one of them, and some learning gaps in some other areas. And if those programs, didn't really meet the need of that population, it would really be a weighing game of cost versus viability, or for its viability.
Right. What about school improvement? Your school is, it's a great school in terms of performance. So, how do you guys focus on school improvement, or do you do any kind of or use any kind of diagnostic testing and that kind of
Yeah, we, at the start of the year, we have a universal screening of students, kind of to get some benchmarks, and that would be Scantron Express. And from there, we've really taken a hard stance um, on using that for RTI purposes. And RTI has been I think it's been a big reason for some of our success academically, because we identify really quickly, and we have set times for those students to get that extra instruction. So Scantron Express would be one way we manage, and then star reading is how and star math is how we kind of progress monitor some of these students in their progress through RTI, and that kind of makes them eligible for more of a watch or release in RTI.
thing?
And then at the end of the year, we had a test that we were going to give, but COVID kind of messed that up, and so I felt good about it, but I think that was kind of naive. The teachers weren't really, excited because there wasn't as many resources as they expected, and I think they felt ill prepared. But usually with the students that we have, if you express the importance of something, they usually rise to that challenge.
That's good. That's good. Talk to me a little bit about technology in classrooms and the impact that that might have on curriculum, uh, and then also maybe a little bit about online virtual learning. I know we in Etowah County learned this morning that there's even more virtual learning options that are going to be coming our way. So,
Mm-hmm.
what are your thoughts about technology and curriculum?
Um, I'm excited that it's kind of getting to this point, because I feel like it was going to get there anyway. And for curriculum wise, with technology in the classroom, if anything, it enriches the subject matter and the standards. And I had a teacher in our district ask me about some things that she could do to help not just make it let me present these materials online and the student fill out these worksheets. And so I showed her how to create these interactive notes, and these notes where students can be part of this learning process to add and enrich to these standards. And so an example I gave, she was talking about maybe teaching about calories. And so in the subsection of the notes that talked about calorie deficits, that's when a student in their homework time, or extra time within the class, they would add to these notes maybe different diets or philosophies on calorie deficits, or how effective are they. And with these notes, they can be shared, of course, and so, or maybe these students can present what they found that kind of enriches these standards. So that's just one example of how it can kind of enrich these standards, or further explore these standards. um, it's the see one, do one, teach one, and the students really get excited about being able to teach others something they found. um,
Right.
I don't see it going back much technology wise. I see it moving forward, and if it hasn't changed curriculum, then I think you're already behind. If you already haven't thought about where this is going next, then you're behind. And those that kind of have been dragging their heels have now been forced to learn quickly, and it showed during this COVID time. No, through no fault of their own, because it was quick. But now we are where we are, and we need to move forward, and this needs to be at the forefront of what you're doing.
Absolutely. I think those are great points. I mean, we talk a lot about meeting the kids where they are,
Mm-hmm.
and they are already using these things. They live in a technological world that is different than a lot of times the teachers that are leading the classrooms. So if a teacher is not willing to get on board with the technology, and if the school in general, the school system in general, isn't willing to search out those innovative ways of addressing the need for technology, then you're not preparing kids for the world they're going to have to work in.
Sure.
So, um, talk about the things that you see as the greatest difficulties of teaching today.
Oh wow. Just in the classroom setting, or just curriculum in general, or
In general, is there something that you see as an overarching difficulty we need to get past?
um, I think that there are better ways that we can diversify how we present instruction. I don't think it's a one-dimensional type thing. I think that, and understandably, some folks are kind of set in their ways, and they think this is we need various ways to present and assess, and um, and probably a lot of pushback, like I alluded to earlier, was standards based and no zeros, and the idea of giving a grade as being punitive seems crazy to me, but not to someone who's been doing it for 30 years. And they think that's a motivator, whereas it could mathematically put a student, at a disadvantage. So I think that for me personally, we have too. If I were teaching again, we have too much data not to understand our learner, and we have too much data to not know that these people learn better this way or that way, and to not present various forms, because we are in a very rich culture on the technology online culture, that there is no reason to not have multiple ways to either present or assess. And I am well open with my teachers to, if they have an idea of various ways to assess. I don't think ABCD is the sole indicator of if they've learned.
That's a really good point. I think that sometimes people forget that beyond the multiple choice or the objective test, there are other ways to show value, and there are other ways to gauge value in learning. So, it is difficult, I think, sometimes to map that out and to make objective use of that kind of thing. But it's definitely something we have to add to the program.
Yeah, and and um, especially when you have students, you have, let's say, in a grade of 80 kids, you have 60 who made all A's and B's, but you only have 20% who are scored in the 90 percentile on their standardized tests. And so,
Yeah,
and yeah, and that, that's disproportionate. And why is that? And so maybe it is the grading procedure, maybe it is, just, whatever, but that's something that's difficult too.
right. That would certainly indicate that there's something wrong with the grading scale that's happening in the classroom.
Hmm.
And and so figuring that out, that's a hard job for administrators.
And
Um,
you have to understand also your other stakeholders, your outside stakeholders in your community. How good does it look, if only 10%, so that's 8.5 kids out of the 85 in that class that are making A's and B's. That's not going to settle well with a lot of teachers, or a lot of parents, I mean, in the
yeah,
community. It doesn't look good.
right. And yeah, you're right. Those people are going to really start looking and asking questions when things drastically change.
Right.
Um, well, Mr. Nelson, thank you for giving me your time. I know you have a lot that you have going on, so you have a busy summer. uh, and I really do appreciate it. Um, this has been very enlightening, and I hope that the things that we've covered are going to lead to great discussions in our class later on. So I really do appreciate it, and thank you for being here.
Yes, sir. Happy to help. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna stop recording now, and I appreciate everything. Have a
Yes,
great
sir.
day.
You too.